Do you ever think about dying? I do. It feels abstract, distant, very final, sometimes scary, inescapable, really. Do you ever think about the end? Are you imagining a bed, last caresses from your dearest, eternal rest? Is there a bucket list in this scene? A specific set of dreams? Earth you'd like to set foot on, milestones to attain, time spent in loving company? When you die, I hope it's not with someone's knees on your neck while the world watches you on a live stream, not in an alleyway, shot in the head by those sworn to protect you. I hope it's not for how you wear your hair or your choice of faith. I hope your body is intact, not split into pieces by bombs dropped from drones. I hope the tap of a button by a human rights champion hundreds of kilometers away is not your death sentence. I hope it's of natural causes, not due to stepping on a mine carelessly left behind, the invisible yet deadly inheritance of violence. I hope it's not from poisoned water or food that has rotten, stomach swollen with abandonment. I hope it's not a machete slicing your neck, not as punishment for existing as your true self. I hope there's no gunfire, no smoke, no fists, no knives. I hope no infrastructure collapses while you try to provide for your family. I hope you're not alone in the desert, reaching toward a better life behind barbed wire. I hope it's not the result of health complications, neglect, financial worries. I hope it's not due to dust inhalation producing wealth for faraway nations, or leaders negotiating using your life as a poker chip. I hope it's not from years of suffering, loneliness, no abandonment by the state, nothing human-made. I hope it's not gender-based. Your vulva ripped open, no belly growth rooted in violence. I hope it's not a knife to the chest for setting a boundary. I hope you don't live to see your children killed, your family taken, your partner maimed. I hope your life isn't deemed a small price to pay in the pursuit of power, dressed up as security. I hope it's not due to stress. I hope the constant threat of death does not wind up your murder weapon. When you die, I hope it's gentle. I hope you live in eternal peace. Thank you.
𝗃 𝗃𝗀𝘀, wow. A Surinamese Dutch dreamer, poet, and doer. Give her, please, another round of applause. And the beautiful thing is, she will be coming back as the closing of this ceremony. But that's for later. Let's begin first. Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. So lovely to be here together tonight. Many of you I met at the door and welcomed, but I don't know if you saw me or not. And it's so important that we see each other. That's why I love this festival, Just Peace Festival. Who has already visited more of the things all over? Raise your hands. Yay, so many hands. Look around. And welcome also when you have your hands up. You can turn around and wave to our people watching at home or somewhere in the world, because they're watching from China to America to Africa and all over the world. So thank you for joining us also online. This Peace Festival and the Hague Talks is organized by the Hague Humanity Hub and is partnered with the Leiden University and the municipality of The Hague. So very important that we have amazing partners. And I was just talking to our deputy mayor who just said that she's so proud that we have become such a big, beautiful festival from all over those years that we have been working and investing with one another. And just a few kilometers away, there's the NATO summit, of course, going on. And tonight, the Hague Talk invites a total different kind of conversations. One centered on people, not just power. Join us this evening in word, music, movement, and dialogue, because it's so important that we connect with one another. Our media partners are in the corner, Holland Park Media, and interpretation is also unavailable. Interperiphery, did I pronounce it well? Because if you want to have this all in Dutch, you can download it on your app and then you will see the translation on your phone. So scan the QR code, it's in the corner over there, and then you have everything in Dutch. So that's we want to be as inclusive as possible, of course. And for those who haven't seen anything of the festival yet, we have a short film for you, just to smell it, to feel it, and definitely join the rest of the festival. It's until the 22nd of June. Just watch. Looking good, right? My name is Leila 𝗝𝘂𝘀𝗁. I'm a moderator, public speaker, and a guest lecturer, but also a war child and an ex-refugee. And I was born and raised in a country that we only know from fairy tales nowadays. It's former Yugoslavia. And I'm born in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where I wasn't born, but where I'm originally from now. And in this beautiful city is the city that my life became full circle. Just a little bit of my personal story. I was 9 when the war started, and after 1.5 years, the city was in extreme war and terror. And after 1.5 years, the Serbs told us that they were going to be cleansing the city. And we had 2 choices: to stay and be murdered, die, or to become a refugee. What would you do? Fortunately, my parents chose to flee, not knowing where and how. But on our route, we got acquainted with Nadia, who will be called a human trafficker now, or an amazing human who saw another human in need and who helped us. She said, "I know you, Rasim, my father. I know you from your work. I know you're an honest man. I really want to help you. Do you know where you are going with your family?" And my father, as a big Balkan man, you know the Balkan men, they're very proud, started crying like a little kid in front of her, and he said, "I don't know where to go, Nadia." And she said, "I will help you. Come to the Netherlands. That's a country where people know what human rights are, where humanity is something that is practiced in daily life. And I will help you." She kept her words, and that's the reason why I'm living in the Netherlands for 31 years now. Now you can know my age, 11, 31. But the beautiful thing is, I have lived in this country in 1 year in Rotterdam, Amsterdam, Bloemendaal, Zeewolde, and in the end in Sassenheim, in the asylum-seeking centers. I got to know Netherlands as that beautiful country of human rights and humanity. And I would love to keep that way. And we all are responsible for that. And that NATO summit is important for us all, for the fact that it's not the weapons that we need each other. We need love, and we need to connect as humanity, as society, as people who see in each other the humans that we are first, always first human. And I'm very proud to be doing this job today because it really comes from the core of my life. In this beautiful city, like I told you, my life became full circle. I've been in this city one of the peace ambassadors, a human rights activist, and peace has become my second nature. Because when you know war, you know there's nothing else that we need to fight for, and that's peace. There's nothing else what we need to fight for than for peace. And never again, ladies and gentlemen, is today. And that's something that we really need to focus on with one another. And I love being one of the peace ambassadors of this beautiful city, The Hague, the city of justice and peace. And I also love that we have a lot of beautiful people working in our municipality who really are invested in not only talking about being the city of justice and peace, but embodying it. And that's what I'm proud to introduce our first speaker of tonight. She is our Deputy Mayor for Poverty, Inclusion, Public Health and International Affairs, a dedicated GroenLinks 𝗃𝗲𝗀𝗃 politician, and newly appointed party leader for the upcoming municipality elections, so you know. And she brings deep experience in youth protection and a strong commitment to building a more inclusive and socially just city. Please give a warm applause and a lot of love to Amare Studio.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Leila, for those beautiful words. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Hague and to the Hague Talks here in Amare. I'm honored to speak at the highlight of the first ever Just Peace Festival. And what a festival it has been. Over the past couple of weeks, more than 80 events have taken place across the city. The program has been wonderfully diverse, from film nights to debates and art exhibitions, all organized by a wide range of partners here in The Hague. I hope many of you were able to attend some of these events. I've had the pleasure of joining a few myself, meeting and listening to citizens, artists, activists, academics, and changemakers. I feel truly inspired, and I hope you do too. I'd like to sincerely thank every one of the 60+ contributing organizations, speakers, and artists who have made this festival possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And a special thank you goes out to the Hague Humanity Hub, Leila University, and everyone at the municipality who worked so hard behind the scenes. And of course, thank you all for being here. This festival was organized in the context of the NATO summit, which, given the current global situation, is perhaps one of the most significant in years. The decisions being made here in The Hague over the next 2 days will directly impact our security and our shared future. Last week, I attended the first Just Peace dialogue, which focused on imagining peace. One of the key messages that came through was that peace and freedom are about much more than simply the absence of war or violence. During the opening of the Just Peace Festival on June 11th, a statement titled "The Hague Speaks for Peace" was presented. This statement calls to everyone to keep working towards social cohesion and good governance, and to make sure these issues remain high on the agenda in international discussions. The International City of Peace and Justice fully endorses this call, and I hope many others will too. It embodies everything our peace and justice ecosystem stands for and strives towards. To quote the statement, "We urge equal and sustained attention to and investment in the long-term work of building resilient, inclusive, and just societies. This is not an alternative to security. It is the foundation of it." Because that's what peace and freedom are truly about. Societies that are resilient, fair, and inclusive. Societies where everyone feels free and safe to be themselves. And that's what we must continue to invest in. These Hague Talks are about imagination, about stories and lived experiences. They are a space for creative expression and bold ideas, a platform for underrepresented voices in the global conversations on peace and justice. And what better place for such dialogues than The Hague, the international city of peace and justice? With so many organizations here working tirelessly, day in and day out, for a better world, this city is a natural international meeting place. But real peace requires more than international organizations and governments. Peace is built by people, by communities, which is why we must invest in our societies. As one of last week's Dialogue's panelists, 𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗃 so beautifully put it, dialogue isn't about agreeing on everything. It's about learning from one another. It's not about taking sides, it's about finding the center. And it's in that center that we meet, and together build a just and lasting peace. Thank you very much. And now we would like to show you a short video where 10 residents of The Hague, the people of The Hague, give their message to the world. I've seen a couple of them here in the audience today. Please give them a warm applause.
De NAVO-top is in onze stad Den Haag.
De wereld kijkt mee. En wij hebben een boodschap. Ik droom.
Ik hoop.
Ik wens.
Een wereld waarin we gelijkwaardig naast elkaar willen leven.
De mensen om je heen zorgen ervoor dat je je ergens thuis voelt.
Laten we bewust zijn van datgene wat we hier hebben en er zuinig op zijn.
Het is belangrijk dat we weerbaar zijn. Ook digitale veiligheid doet ertoe.
Ik ben van na de oorlog. En zo wil ik het houden.
Ik geloof.
Ik denk.
Ik wil.
Vrede voor iedereen, ongeacht de afkomst of religie.
Vrijheid is voor mij geen zorgen aan mijn hoofd hebben.
Luister naar elkaars verhalen. De wereld is één familie.
Dat het vanzelfsprekend is dat je je kunt uitspreken.
Geef niet op, bouw aan iets en doe het samen.
Blijf verhalen vertellen.
En spreek je uit.
Voor vrede en recht.
The first video was by Holland Park Media, and the second one is from City Branding. So, all the details now you have. And share it with the whole world, because it's important that people know that they are not alone. Much more of us are for peace and justice in every country in the world. Isn't that true, right? Definitely, yeah. Okay, we have many more amazing speakers, artists, musicians, and performers coming up. But we didn't give her an applause, our Deputy Mayor, Marielle Verviers. We will be hearing stories of power all over the world, sharing their inner peace, their perseverance, and of course the connections that they are building with humanity, with community, and with human rights. First up is a beautiful lady who is smiling at me with a beautiful soul coming through her eyes. She is well known for translating complex social justice issues into accessible and creative narratives that engage broad audiences. Sahar Sherzad is a program maker, a writer, a human rights lawyer, but first of all, a beautiful human. As the founder of Refugee Millennials, she brings powerful stories of identity, migration, and justice to the forefront. Through her work, she creatively bridges critical social topics with wider audiences, and her father is filming in the audience because he's a very proud Baba. Eh? Please give her a warm applause, 𝗲𝗂𝘀 𝗫𝗲𝘀.
God has left the building. This thought has echoed through my mind more and more in recent years, especially when I remember how we declared our mission in Afghanistan complete the moment the so-called perpetrators were dead and left the women behind, hostage to the Taliban, living today in the only country on earth where gender apartheid is the law of the land. In the lead up to this evening, I spent countless nights texting my friends. How's your family? Any news? We don't know. The internet is cut off. My Iranian and Afghan friends whose families live in Farsi-speaking regions are being bombed to dust, were and still are in despair. These desperate exchanges are not unfamiliar to me. 1.5 years ago, to another friend, how's your family in Gaza? They have nowhere to go. How's yours in Afghanistan? We have barely any humanitarian help after the earthquake in Herat. And before that, in 2021, how's your family in Kabul? I don't know what to say. They have nowhere to go. And I stand before you as one of the refugee millennials, tens of thousands of us, children from Bosnia, Syria, Rwanda, Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Liberia, Palestine, Afghanistan, the children of conflict, now adults, asking you, do we ever get a seat at the table when you talk about peace? The law forces us to fixate on the word safety. But who defines it? Governments of faraway states, to be granted asylum, we must prove over and over that our homes are unsafe enough. Only then we are allowed to be safe here, somewhere. Years of our lives are lost to this proving. Years we never get back. I was lucky. For me, it was just 2 years. Just 2 years of childhood stolen by running, hiding, waiting, not having education. Yet even when we arrive in these so-called safe countries, do we feel safe? Not when we grow up hearing every day that we are the reason for all that is wrong. We, the children of war, become young adults burdened by an extra weight because fascism likes to stitch imposter syndrome into our bones. How do you thrive in a place that insists your thriving is a threat? And yet, despite the dehumanization, we thrive, as I stand here, as my Baba is filming right now. Don't be shy. Even in darkness, we bloom. Fear of migrants has always been an effective tool for fascism. So lies are told, repeated so often that they become truth. For 20 years also, we've heard about Iran's nuclear button so many times that we can picture a caricature picture of Khamenei next to a big red button switch since 1995. For 20 years, we heard that the migrant child is a threat. But can we train our compassion instead? Just recently, the Minister of Migration and Asylum sent a dishonest tweet. Now the cabinet fell, so I have to say ex-minister, luckily. You're nodding like, hopefully she won't return. So the story was, young minors in asylum were planning, or an organization was planning to take them to a theme park because there was a carnival in the city, and the municipality was afraid that during that carnival there would be riots against these minors, so they were going to be taken to a theme park, and the minister said, not with our tax money, we're not going to give them a day off. Thank you. But I want you to remember something else. It's not the point. People gathered 100,000 euros in no time. Not for weapons, but simply to give to these children for that day off. And I want you to remember that. With every protest against an asylum center, there's also a protest when it closes. This is the power of compassion when we amplify it instead of fear. So how do we imagine peace? For me, it's very simple. Love thy neighbor. As Confucius said, do not do to others what you not want to be done to yourself. A golden rule repeated in every thinkable faith today. Fear feeds our reptile brain. Fight, flight, freeze. But compassion rewires us for connection. And I believe we need more leaders who lead with compassion and courage. Leaders like Jacinda Ardern, who showed the world how to govern with empathy. And like Claudia Sheinbaum, Mexico's first female president, breaking barriers and showing what it means to put people first. I mean, we put all these men with reptile brains broadly in the news, and I refuse to name them today. But we don't speak about these female leaders enough. So ask yourself, who is your neighbor? No, quite literally. I want you to look at your left, and I want you to say your name, and I'm gonna make an example because I just had 8 minutes for this speech. I am, 1 second, I am Sahar, and in one sentence say what you are. I am Sahar, and I am a child of God, is what I would say in one sentence, what I would identify myself. Now look to your left, say your name, and say one sentence that defines you in the moment. Do it right now. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I think we said the one sentence. I will keep talking until you look back at me. I've led quite some demonstrations, but I don't think you guys want me to chant right now. Thank you very much. In times of chaos, the first radical act is to open the door, not to slam it shut, to share what we have, to refuse to politicize a basic human right, the right to safety. Now, if we look around NATO next door, even left-leaning parties, even the Green Party, wants to spend 5% of our wealth on weapons. If we normalize investing in weapons, weapons will remain in the hands of people who shoot children. Children dying while waiting in line, families trembling with hunger and fear. We're letting children die waiting for aid. We call these crimes committed by the army of Israel inhumane very often, but if you ask me, it's very human. We the people, it is our money that has been put into these weapons. So what is NATO normalizing by investing in weapons? Fight inhumanity with what exactly? Will mass destruction bring us freedom? Will bombing hospitals and schools bring us security? But more importantly, will so-called legal weapons be the answer to stop these illegal destructions? No. We must speak of another world. We must become, each of us, ministers of peace. As Karen Armstrong writes in her book, in Semitic languages, the word for compassion is related etymologically to rahim, rahem. We say rahim in Farsi. The icon of mother and child is an archetypal expression of human love. Rahim means womb. It evokes the maternal affection that in all likelihood gave birth to our capacity for unselfish, unconditional altruism. It may well be that the experience of teaching, guiding, soothing, protecting, and nourishing their young taught men and women how to look after people other than their own kin, developing a concern that was not based on cold calculation, but imbued with warmth. We humans are more radically dependent on love than any other species. Our brains have evolved to be caring and to need care, to such an extent that they are impaired if this nurture is lacking. This is our human truth. And yet globally, we have never truly honored it. Though borders no longer define our closeness, I mean, technologically, I can click on a link and there's a Zoom video call away and I can speak to someone in Afghanistan, yet we scroll further and further from real peace. So let us remember, God cannot leave the building. The Sufis say, light, God is within us. We are that building. Peace starts here, not through mass destruction, but through soft forces. I want you to close your eyes. Please close your eyes, thank you. I want to share with you my vision of peace. Come with me. Imagine a warm, safe Afghanistan. A woman biking home from yoga and meditation class, not surrounded by Western expats, but by her own neighbors. Together not as exercise and sun salutations, but as quiet devotion. She rides through the crisp mountain air under the Band Amir cliffs. She stops at a roadside cart to buy a pomegranate, not from a child forced to work, but from an adult earning a living with dignity. She cycles home, her hair loose in the wind, free. You can open your eyes. Peace is not epic. It is these small sensory freedoms. I would like to end with a poem of Harriet Roland Holst. In Dutch it's called De Zachte Krachten. In Dutch they say, de zachte krachten zullen zeker winnen. The gentle forces, they will surely vanquish at last. If I kept silent, all light will darken. All warmth in me would extinguish. So I stand here, refusing silence. You too carry light. You too carry warmth. Be a minister of peace. Let the gentle forces win. Thank you.
And if it's okay with you, Sahar, just a personal something. Both of us are doing this for a long time now, eh? Off script, Barclay, sorry. But you moved me to tears because both of us need to get sick before we can heal again. Also, Rumi said, wound is the place when the light enters. I will only share my thing. I got cancer because of the war, and I was a kid in a war, exposed to a lot of nuclear waste. So that was what was waiting for me in my happily ever after in freedom. I don't want and wish none of that to any kids living in war wherever in the world. And also I don't wish for none of us to fight every day to own our light that we were given by birth, just to exist, to feel at value of value. So really, don't let more people get sick. we are human first, and we deserve to breathe this clean air everywhere in the world. And ladies and gentlemen, have you seen that we only have a lot of amazing, powerful women on this stage? Like, just 2 kilometers from here, the NATO summit, do you think that they have a lot of these women over there too? So there's also some kind of clue in there probably, yeah? I don't mean there's no men and don't need it. I mean, you will come up later on, Kumi, no worries, but we need each other. The equality thing is very important, but we really need to make space and light for one another. And another powerhouse is coming up. Is also a strong woman, 𝗃𝘂𝘀𝘁 𝗃𝗲𝘀𝘁, a powerful voice for community-led change in Sierra Leone, a former refugee, once again, and a lifetime activist. She has transformed harmful practices like female genital mutilation through education and dialogue, providing and proving that human rights and culture can coexist. They can. As a former deputy minister and co-founder of 𝗃𝘂𝘀𝘁, I pronounce it now twice, 𝗃𝘂𝘀𝘁. She continues to push for systematic change, driven by the belief that true power must empower all. And you have a lot of fans too, by the way, because they're all filming all over, and they're the young generation. Give it up, please, a lot of love for 𝗃𝘂𝘀𝘁.
Whether it's culture, religion, political, or civil war, remove your knee from our necks. The world needs peace. Peace, like change, can only be found from within. Pursuing peace is one of the few shared values that cut across cultural, political, linguistic divide. The challenge, however, comes in understanding what peace really means and how do we pursue it. Peace, for many people, have a different definition, but community definition should be considered and make paramount in terms of pursuing peace. For my community and the experience that I have, peace is built on an empowered society, realizing the role of community and availing opportunities to all without discrimination and favor, and it is very crucial now. In the absence of war, disempowerment is also the opposite of peace. So to have peace, people need to have structure, the strength and opportunity to find peace from within, to act with peace towards others and for a peaceful society. When I speak to my colleagues and the community that I work with, they often share what they automatically believe is what peace is. There can be no peace in the absence of opportunities. Peace is impossible when you are living in poverty, unable to feed your children, to pay your own education, to see any path to a suitable future for yourself, your family, your community, and your country. In many parts of Sub-Sahara, real progress and peace that allow these needs people address needs and structural change. Structural change begins from your hearts, your community, your village. But this is only possible when you work with governments. The people will elect to make policies that will address injustice. We need the grassroots and the government to work hand in hand from a holistic approach, bottom top. It is only this way lasting change can take root and grow. And how did I come to this? And what is the view based on all? Well, it's personal to me, but again, it's beyond the context of my country, Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is a beautiful country in West Africa. It has a complex history shaped by colonialism, which disrupts our system and broke conflict resolution and care for community. After independence, power remained to the few elites, leaving the rural community marginalized with no opportunity. This disempowerment and marginalization condition created and contributed to the senseless 11-year rebel war in my country. To prevent history repeat itself, we must learn from our mistake and recognize what we did overlooked. People with communities, especially the traditional social system, need to be upheld and live in unity. Today, most Sierra Leoneans still live in rural areas, guided by their customs and communal values. Yes, as in many African countries, our youth, the majority, grow without adequate education, job opportunity, or hope for the future. Many are left feeling trapped and in desperation flee their homes in search of dignity and a life for meaning, with frustration with the majority living on drug. A lot of Sierra Leoneans are living here in the Hague and other parts in Europe. And what they face, we understand. But yes, they are here because they are looking for peace, and peace for sustainability. But with these communities lie potential for conflict and violence or peace. Respect and mutual support. For peace to be real and lasting, it must grow from within, from the people themselves, not imposed from the outside. But it must be nurtured and promoted. An example of this is the elimination of female genital mutilation practice tied to the health of women and equality. With our experience over the years, working on the efforts with Western organizations, it is very clear that female genital mutilation cannot end with foreign framework. It cannot be successful and actually lead to unrest when foreigners intervene. However, when the issue is approached by local solutions that respect culture and context and include stakeholders' perspective, the real change becomes possible. The strategy I developed, the NENE strategy, is such a community-developed, culturally sensitive method to combat FGM that preserves the positive aspect of the Sierra Leone women culture, addresses the importance of tradition, while ending harmful practices. At the core of it, there is an emphasis on peace building, inclusive dialogue, learning and peace building, empowering rights and women through education, income-generating activity, respect, and choices. This transformation also made by activating existing social support system embedded in community and culture. In this way, change comes from within individuals and community, so creating lasting solutions for peace and social progress. But the principle behind the NENE strategy, local ownership, culturally sensitive and holistically empowerment, are not limited in addressing FGM alone. They represent a wider approach to development that strengthens community resilience, dignity across all of life. This is embedded in what I see as a blueprint from sustainable peace and progress. The Aninki promotes Rotumba project. Rotumba is one of our communities in Sierra Leone that used to accommodate or harbor slaves during the colonial times. It's a forgotten community, but they work with Aninki, and Aninki is founded by Africans and Europeans. Out of the methodology of the Amazonian Initiative movement, or how to bring change and make it sustainable and owned by the people. The Rotumba project represents a model of contemporary African community-led development that integrates social, economic, and medical components. Crucially, it was conceived by the community itself. It shows that community people have ideas, and they should not serve as passive beneficiaries, but as agents of their own, and intergenerational collaboration to all of this is important. Holistic approach is also necessary in building communities to thrive on their own terms in terms of building strength and independency and vision. Just as with the NENE strategy, the Rotumba project demonstrates real change, beginning from within, inside the individual, the family, and the village. But for that change to be sustainable and far-reaching, grassroots actions to be met with top commitments. Structural transformation is essential. That is why the Aninki does not only work with community people, but we also work with people at high places, the government, who make policies for change. Girls are empowered, and we encourage policymakers, religious leaders, traditional leaders, academics, and those who shape public opinion and national priority, and now even international community. That is why I am here to share our story and show how the model to include community in peace building, in development, and in anything that has to do with the progress of a nation and society as a whole. I invite the world to have a close look at this model, where communities are empowered to design and own their own development, where peace is not imposed, where development is framed in the ideas of community, and where young people are part of the process of developing policies for the country. Now, I want to ask you these questions. I don't need your answers, but I want you to ponder over them. In pursuance of peace, is your institution or your government or your leaders investing in the kind of change you want to see in your community or the country? Are the voices of the marginalized, people in rural community, the homeless, the poor, included in making policy? Are their voices recognized or heard? Because if peace is to be real, it must be felt by all, and not just imagined by a few. All of us need to make sure we participate in building peace. But peace have to start from within. I thank you.
Thank you, Nene. Well done. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The stage is being prepared for our next artists. Are you ready for our artists? Are you enjoying yourself? Getting inspired all over? Feel goosebumps all over your body? Okay, tears in your eyes? The flame in your heart? Good, 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 good. Please join me in welcoming 𝗝𝘂𝘀𝘁 𝗃𝘁 and 𝗃𝘲𝘃 𝗲𝗲. No, just stay. You're not. Yeah, let me introduce you first before you. 𝗃𝘂𝘀 is an interdisciplinary artist based in Rotterdam and The Hague, and a powerful voice within the colonial collective 𝐶𝑎𝑙_Identity. 𝐶𝑎𝑙_Identity. Remember that. Through her creative platform 𝗃𝘂𝘀 𝗃𝘂𝘀 waves together fashion, film, theater, dance, and design to explore identity, belonging, and resistance. 𝗃𝘂𝘀 will be diving into the bodily archives. Bodily archives. Wow, are you like interested in what that means, as I am? On music consisting of deep underwater soundscapes, melancholy of the sarangi, don't know what that is either, a string instrument which is known for its human voice-like sound. You know how that sounds? You will know in a second. Please give a warm applause to these beautiful ladies, 𝗃𝘂𝘀𝘁 𝗃𝗲𝘀 and 𝗃𝘲𝘃 𝗲𝗲𝗃𝗃. Wow, wow. And you're wondering about the rest of the music probably because we have heard new sounds, the disturbed rhythms of tabla, right, Ruby? And, yeah, just breathe, just no worry. A percussion instrument, dantal, and then the Indo-Caribbean instrument made of steel producing the high-pitched sound, what we heard. So, wow. Another bit of love for Ruby and Josephine. And for this whole time, she's already sitting at the edge of her chair, waiting, looking me into the eyes. And I'm honored to introduce to you another powerhouse, voice in the fight for democracy, justice, and human rights. For over 2 decades, Jess O'Connell has been at the forefront of advancing progressive change across the United States, and now needed as ever. She is the co-founder and CEO of New Coast Tragedies, working on issues ranging from economic fairness to civil rights and voting access. She also co-founded the Democracy Security Project, a vital initiative supporting individuals and organizations facing rising threats to their work and safety. Training over 3,000 people in just its first year, ladies and gentlemen. Yet Jess has held some of the most influential leadership roles in the US politics, including CEO of the Democratic National Committee and Executive Director of the Emily's List, the world's largest political organization for women. Please give her some love and a heartfelt applause. Jess O'Connell.
Good evening. Well, that was a beautiful performance. Leave it to the American to kill the peace in the room as we get up here, play my role. Listen. Tonight is about courageous conversations, and I'm here to have one with all of you. I'm here to have one with all of you. And I wish it didn't involve the men. I wish my speech, my talk didn't involve talking about some of them, but we have to. And in my position, we have to. 48 hours ago, the President of the United States created a direct threat to international peace and security. Don't blame me, I didn't vote for him either time. In fact, I've spent the last 10 years of my career every single day working against Donald Trump and those that work with him. As mentioned, I became the CEO of the Democratic Party in the United States just a few weeks after Donald Trump was elected the first time. I've worked in politics in the United States for over 25 years, something that I was generally proud of, but is getting harder and harder to stomach. But I have worked to change the face of power in the United States, primarily by working to elect more women, more people of color, more LGBTQ people, because that will help bring us peace. I've worked with groups all across the US and some internationally as well. And my role in all of that really was to bring the energy and ideas and passion that is out there and turn it into lasting victories for peace, for equality, and for justice. It's not going that great right now. Last year, I co-founded the Democracy Security Project, as was mentioned. That's because we saw a rise in threats in the United States against both public servants, civil servants, and all sectors across society, both online and cyber threats and physical threats to their lives, to their work. It's the most dangerous time for our work in decades. For the United States, we need to be clear-eyed about where we are to know where we're going. And we need to teach more people in the United States who live with privilege what peace means. The past week was a big one in America. It's one that my young son, will probably read about and learn about, and people his age will for a long time. It was a big week. It started last weekend when Donald Trump threw himself a birthday military parade, parading tanks down the streets of Washington, D.C., my hometown. He hoped for 200,000 people. He got about 50,000. In fact, there were advertisements for seat fillers, paying people to sit in the stands and cheer for him. Even that didn't work. At the same exact time on the same day, 5 million people from around the United States, across all 50 of the states, marched in over 2,000 rallies and protests, in peaceful protests, against Donald Trump and the direction of the United States. It was likely the biggest protest in American history. And since Donald Trump was reelected, there have been more than 15,000 peaceful protests across the United States. You may not have seen them because they are not being covered. The second thing that happened last weekend was a political assassination. You see, a man in Minnesota had a list with 70 names on it and a gun. And he visited 4 houses. 2 of them opened the door. The first one, he shot and killed Melissa Hortman, a colleague, someone that I knew, and her husband in their home. The second one that opened the door, he shot the Speaker of the House of Minnesota, and his wife, Yvette, threw herself on her daughter's body to shield her from the bullets, taking 8 bullets herself to save her daughter. Both John and Yvette survived and are fighting for their lives right now. The third thing that happened as I just arrived here in the Netherlands this weekend, and it was 1 week to the day of Donald Trump's embarrassing military parade. There is nothing more dangerous than an embarrassed, narcissistic man. He bombed Iran a week from that parade, without approval from Congress, without the support of Americans. I will admit, it is difficult to be here talking with you all about peace and justice when the United States has a history of failing at both. But there have always been American leaders on the side of a just peace. In 1967, American civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife Coretta visited the UN headquarters after marching with 125,000 protesters against the Vietnam War, and he said there can be no justice without peace, there can be no peace without justice. Martin Luther King Jr. guided a generation of Americans, my parents included, through racial discrimination, a deeply unpopular war, and through nonviolent protest for change. I grew up in a state called Arizona with a white mother and an African-American father, during a time when Arizona was one of the reddest and most conservative corners of the country. My father escaped the violence and racism of the Deep South for a life in the Southwest. My parents were not especially politically active. They voted. But every year on the federal holiday for Martin Luther King Jr., they pulled me out of school and we marched in the streets. We marched for justice and equality, and we marched because my state refused to honor the slain civil rights leader and refused the holiday. We marched until finally the holiday, Martin Luther King Jr., and civil rights were recognized. And I found my way into politics because my life experiences taught me that we need governments where different perspectives aren't just heard but are listened to, where justice and peace are tied together, and where peace does not become obnoxious. Martin Luther King warned about obnoxious peace, peace that excludes others, peace that allows for second-class citizens, peace that allows for exploitation and corruption, the kind of uneasy, everyday peace that could exist for me and many of us if we keep quiet, if we ignore the news, if we stop speaking out. Today in the United States and around the world, we're being challenged not to rebuild what was, but to reimagine what could be. A multiracial democracy centered on peace and justice and equality and safety. There are many powerful forces working against this right now. And to that I say, no justice, no peace. Also in 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote the final draft of his final book. He was anticipating what would be a backlash from the success of progress that had been made the 10 years before, things like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. And he asked in the book, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? I think we know. We are urgently called to revisit our efforts right now, to cultivate our communities and to grow them, to look out at the horizon and the future that we want for ourselves and our loved ones. Every generation faces new and existential threats. Over the last 15 years, record number of people across the world have taken action and taken to the streets to make their voices heard. There have been protests on every continent and in at least 144 countries. We cannot foresee everything that is coming for us in this uncertain world, but together we can envision what we hope it will look like, and we can all take action. Last week, I was talking to a friend from Chile, and she said, you know, we human beings often don't see or believe in our own resilience until life forces us to prove it. Now we must prove it. Amidst the immense suffering, we must keep going. Resistance requires resilience. Justice requires joy. Peace requires participation. To be successful, we must do the things they don't want us to do. Bear witness, engage in difficult conversations, donate silently, boycott corruption, vote and bring someone with you, protest in the streets, and help protect people. There is no excuse not to take action. We must keep going. We must keep going, because without justice, there's no peace. Thank you.
Without justice, there's no peace in the city of justice and peace. And the body archives, the body keeps the score in the end. Whatever is saved in the body. Please help me welcoming our next speaker, a truly powerful voice for justice, peace, and the planet. 𝗃𝘀𝘁 𝗏𝗃 is a lifelong activist from South Africa, known for his fearless leadership in the global human rights and climate justice movement. He has served as Secretary General of Amnesty International, the first Global South leader of Greenpeace International, and now champions for the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, for grassroots organization to global advocacy, from art to activism. 𝗃𝘀𝘁 continues to inspire action across generation. It's a great honor to welcome you here to the stage. Give him a warm applause and a lot of love. 𝗃𝘀𝘁 𝗏𝗃.
Dear friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say, don't have high expectations about the words that are about to come out of my mouth. I am here solely for one reason, and that is to provide some gender balance to the proceedings this evening. I want to engage you in a quick test. I'm going to pose a question and give you 3 options and ask you what your answer to them are. The question is, how is humanity performing in terms of meeting the greatest threat to peace and stability and security in the long term, and that is addressing the climate crisis that we find ourselves in. Option 1, no reason to panic. Our government and business leaders will get it together and will somehow prevent the worst of the catastrophe that is before us. Option 2, we are in a deep crisis, but the window of opportunity is still there, but it's fast closing, but it's still within human ingenuity, creativity, and capability to broaden that and move us away from the suicidal trajectory that humanity is in. And option 3, if I might be permitted to use a sentence from Afrikaans, from my country, South Africa, option 3 is, ons is deep, deep, deep in the kak. Okay? So all of you think that it's option 1, put up your hands. Nobody. All of you think that it's option 2, put up your hands. I'm seeing about 50%. Option 3, whoa. Option 2 and option 3 is in the same ballpark. If I'm brutally honest, there are days when I wake up when it's option 2. There are days when I wake up, it's closer to option 3. Certainly the day Donald Trump got elected, it was definitely option 3. But the most important message I would like to leave you with this evening. In the moment of history that we find ourselves in, pessimism is a luxury we simply cannot afford. And the pessimism that justifiably emerges from our analysis, our observations, and our lived experiences must, can, and should be responded to by the optimism of our thought, our action, our creativity, our courage, and our sense of humanity. Please, please, don't clap, don't clap. I only got 6 minutes. When I speak to people these days, I'm more nervous than when I was a 15-year-old activist against the apartheid regime. The reason for that is sometimes people ask me this question. I wasn't going to say this, but after your speech, I brought this in. Kumi, have you heard of Martin Luther King? And I say, yes. He inspired me and many people in our struggle against apartheid. And then they ask me, what was his most famous speech was called? And I say, very hesitantly, I Have a Dream. And people shout back, yes, it was I Have a Dream, but when you speak, you have like a bloody nightmare. The forests are disappearing, the oceans are rising, fascism is on the rise, and so on. But therein lies the challenge for each and every one of us. How do we speak truth to power on the one hand without sanitizing the fact that humanity is in a desperately bad crisis? But how do we do it in a way that inspires, motivates, and sends a message to people that their participation, their voice, and their engagement is critically important? Now, we have been going to climate negotiations for 30 years, and we've been calling for a fab deal. Not a fabulous deal, but a fair, ambitious, and binding deal. But year after year, what we get is a flab deal, F-L-A-B. Full of loopholes and bullshit, right? Imagine, the main cause of climate change, 86% of the cause of climate change is our addiction and the burning of fossil fuels, oil, coal, and gas. But it took the UN climate negotiations 28 years before we could even mention fossil fuels in an outcome document. That's as absurd as Alcoholics Anonymous having 28 years of conferences before they get the courage to mention the word alcohol in the outcome document. So we must be very clear that we have to, let me put it to you this way. Imagine you go to work, right, in the morning, you come home at the end of the day, and then as you open the door, you come in, you see water as flowing just outside your bathroom. And as you pass the kitchen, you pick up the mop, you move to the bathroom, you open the door and you see, hey, I left the tap running and I left the stopper, and that's why there's an overflow. What do you do first? Do you start wiping the water first, or do you turn off the tap first? Of course you turn off the tap first. And if we don't turn off the tap on fossil fuels, we are kidding ourselves that we are addressing the climate crisis. And we need to understand that the reason for this is too many of our governments are completely controlled by the fossil fuel industry. Do you know the war in Iraq, which was started on the same false premise as this attack on Iran? You know what it was originally going to be called, what it was called? Operation Iraqi Freedom. Do you know what it was called beforehand? It was called Operation Iraqi Liberation. And then somebody said, no, 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 we can't call it Operation Iraqi Liberation because it spells oil and we'll be exposing ourselves exactly why we're engaged in that war. So what's happening now? The question that has been raised about NATO pushing up the budgets, I want to remind people of what the US President Dwight Eisenhower said in his last day in office. He warned America and the world. He said, I am deeply concerned about the growing power of the military-industrial complex. We ignore at our peril the rising power of the military industry because they will seek and promote wars for profit so that they can actually continue to make money. And it is no secret that many wars in Africa, for example, have been fostered by military-industrial needs to sell their weapons when people were not necessarily inclined towards war. So to NATO we say that when Donald Trump insists that you have to go for 5% costs and so on, he's not acting in the interests of the American people, he's not acting in the interests of anybody else than the military-industrial complex in the United States. This time you can clap. So, in conclusion, I want to just say that, and I was asked to come up with some stories. So why is it we are failing? Why is it that activism and those that seek justice, human rights, and climate justice, and so on, why are we failing? And I want to say to you up front, as the leader of the anti-colonial movement, 𝗝𝘂𝘀𝗁 𝗃𝗃 from your part of the world in West Africa said, tell no lies and claim no easy victories. In the moment of history we find ourselves in, we need brutal, brutal truth. And after Archbishop Desmond Tutu's funeral in January 22, my son, who's a very popular musician in South Africa, sits me down and says, you know, you're really not good at what you do. In fact, people will say you are crap at what you do. I say, why, Ricardo, am I so bad? He says, well, you've been fighting for human rights, democracy, gender equity, sustainability, and so on since you were a child, teenager, since the age of 15. And when I look at the world, everything is going in the wrong direction. Now, if you couldn't achieve anything when you were young, why do you think now that you're old you're going to make any impact? Why don't you just chill, spend more time with us and the grandchildren that you should have spent when you were unsuccessfully running around the world trying to save it? And then when I say, why is it? He said, the reason is you all aim all your messages and your narratives at the brain and you'll ignore the heart, the body, and the soul. And he said, look at Donald Trump. He bypasses the brain and he goes and weaponizes everything in the heart and he tells all sorts of crazy lies and he gets away with it. So I said, are you saying that we must lie? He said, no, I'm not saying you should lie like Donald Trump, but all I'm saying is you'll need to be less boring with the facts. The truth is, many of us who are activists talk a language that ordinary people don't understand. Many things that were said here, including what I am saying, if we got ordinary people to watch, they will say, my God, they use a language, they use a sense of imagery and so on, it doesn't resonate with me. In my country, South Africa, where the apartheid system was built on educational disfranchisement, the founder of apartheid said, blacks should never be shown the greener pastures of education. They should know that the station in life is to be users of wood and drawers of water. And our majority of our people were deprived of education. So in our struggle, we had to use song, we had to use dance, we had to use theater, we had to use all sorts of cultural forms. And that is why one of the movements that is emerging now is called the Global Activism Initiative. And you can Google Global Activism, and all of you here who are involved in arts and culture, I invite you to join, to bring your voice as equals. Because quite frankly, the voice of the arts and culture community today is going to be much more important than boring voices like myself. So I really think we need to create more space for arts and culture to be able to play its role to move people on a much larger base. So let me just say, mobilizing the power of arts and culture alone will not deliver salvation from the climate crisis and the intersecting crises. However, failing to harness the power of arts and culture almost guarantees that we will fail. Now, the last story is from Durban. A feminist, in the last days of her life, not last days of her life, she had retired at the age of 85, right, in Durban, where I come from, which is a coastal city. And God comes into a room the night after a party, and God says to her, "You have been such a faithful servant to the cause of gender equality. I want to give you one wish, any wish you want." And so she says, "You know, God, the person that inspired me to become a feminist was a woman that lives in Mauritius. And can you build a bridge from Durban to Mauritius so I can drive and go and see her, because at my age now I'm freaked out by flying." And God tells her, "Listen, you know, I'm really disappointed. You feminists, you'll talk about intersectionality and all, and don't you understand the impact that's going to have on the environment if I have to build a bridge from Durban to Mauritius?" And then God shakes his head, "Sorry, I can't give you that. You need to come up with another." And then she says, "Okay, can you, in 1 week, convince all the men in the world that if women are not fully free and women do not have the same power as men, that we will not stand a chance of achieving peace, justice, and equity in the world?" And God, you know, he scratched his head, and then he said, "What was the timeline again?" And she said, 1 week. And then he said, "Okay, in that case, how many lanes do you want on the bloody highway to Mauritius?" Right? So, I want to say to the NATO leadership in conclusion, if you do not address the question of gender equity, if you deprive the voice of more than half the population on the planet in terms of all the decisions that you make, you are kidding yourself that you will ever come up with any solutions for peace. And the NATO leadership must understand that they are less than 13% of the world's population. And by the way, while we freak out about the US every day, all of us are freaking out, we must always remind ourselves that the US is less than 5% of the world's population. And people in numbers can make things happen. So I just want to end with this question to you. How many of you know where your ancestors come from? Shout it out. Iran, I want you to go even further back. I want you to go even further back. I'm looking for an answer. I hope somebody's going to shout it out. Okay, there's some white people here shouting Africa, okay? Okay, so these white people shouting Africa are very well-informed white people. Okay, because humanity started in Africa, in the West, in the Rift Valley, moved to Australia, and came over to Europe and so on. And I really want to apologize to all the white people in the room. I'm so sorry in the process that you lost all your color, okay? So I want to conclude in the spirit of activism by teaching you a song. It only has 2 words in it. Phambili, Africa, which means forward with Africa. And given that all our ancestors come from Africa, the song is forward to peace for people in the world. Okay, my son will be very upset with me. By the way, I should let you know that 6 weeks after I had that conversation with my son, he took his life. And we set up a foundation in his name, Refugee Foundation for the Promotion of Activism, which is building this movement to bring the power of arts and culture. He will be very pissed with me now for trying to sing in front of so many people, especially since I don't have any water. So, thank you. There's 2 words, Phambili, Africa, and you're all going to sing it with me. Phambili, 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 Africa. Phambili, 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 Africa. Okay, everybody now. Phambili, 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 Africa. Phambili, Phambili, Pambili, Pambili, Pambili Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Woo-hoo. Kumi, well done. And the good thing is, in all my guest lectures, I tell all the youngsters that we're all originally from Africa. And then a whole discussion starts. How is it possible? But that's for later. Deal? For later. Okay. Kumi started it off, but we have an amazing performer coming up again, 𝗄𝘂𝘀 𝗃𝗲, a fusion artist based in Rotterdam with roots in Syria, blending voice, lyricism, and the soulful sounds of the qanun and other instruments. 𝗄𝘂𝘀 creates musical experiences she calls movies through song. Sounds good, eh? Her works weaves together influences from hip-hop, North African rhythms, jazz, and pop, crafting a sound that is both deeply personal and universally resonant. Where is she? Where? Oh, there are you. Give her a warm applause and a lot of love, 𝗄𝘂𝘀 𝗃𝗲.
Forgive me if my voice cracks in this. I'm not making the sounds from my vocal cords. I'm singing from that voice that I birthed out of myself, that one day I found out. I read, "My dearest daughter, I'm so sad to tell you this, but your friend passed away in March 2002. I'm his father. father texting you this. My deepest condolences. يحكون للشمس وللقاس يوم يابا شوقي يوصلهم هما يسمعوا يابا شوقي يوصلهم هما يسمعوا Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Shaza. This song was about grief. I have one last song for you guys. It's a damn light, help me fucking not my mind. It's a mess, no, each day watch it smoke and cry. Listen, I'ma live my life, brother, sister, while they die in my paradise, while their hearts are out there bleeding dry. In my little fights, discussing life and death as my brothers die. In your paradise, this is my life. Why keep stealing our light? It's a dark night, dressed in gentle genocide. It's a long cry, it can break but never die. Ay. But one day it will fall. They try to break a brother's will, was reaching for the freedom, not the freedom got him killed. So what you waited on, debating on still? Apartheid and oppression in these lands upon the hills. So from dusk till dawn, we keep marching on. I sing my freedom songs until the wall is gone. And so much shit that you can take away, and you can try to take the soul but can't erase the pain. Keep on building up these walls thinking that you're safe, and now you're hiding from yourselves, digging your own grave. Now from dusk till dawn, we keep marching on. Sing my freedom songs until my wall is gone. Oh, 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 until oh, you don't know how much I said, and it don't help, and it don't help. You don't know how much I sigh. That shit don't help, that shit don't help. Oh. Stealing our light, it's a long cry, dressed in gentle genocide. It's a long cry, it can drown but never die. But one day it will fall.
much.
Wow, 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 wow. 𝗄𝘃 ladies and gentlemen. And in her own words, born ready is actually true, eh? Definitely born ready. Yeah, you go for it. All of our beautiful artists. You can book again, of course, so don't forget that. And the speakers, of course, too. So let's do a bit of a promotion. Why not? They're just going to rebuild the stage because we're going to do the reflection, a dialogue. And not a debate, nor a discussion. Reflection. Isn't that beautiful? Right? Of the others, we have a lot. So don't do that together. And for our speakers, you can maybe already think about the first question. Sahara was already jumping up and down in her chair with all the speakers. So, for all of you, but talking to you now, what is the things that are like touched your heart and soul? There are many, so you have some time to think about that one, if we're talking about a reflection. See, and maybe it's a good thing to remember somebody from the municipality and from Amare here. Lovely Amare, right? And all us technical guys over there and lights and the media and everybody. Give them a warm applause, please, too. And 𝗃𝘀𝘁, who works here at Amare, and yeah, definitely, she's very nice and good in what she does. She said to Maria, who is from the Hague Humanity Hub, "I'm so jealous because you have so many amazing volunteers." A warm applause, please, for all those people who work and help as volunteers. Because the silent voices we don't hear so much. Okay, can we give a round of applause for our Sahar Sherzad, Nene, come on up, Jess O'Connell, and Kumi Naidu. Yeah, I love, see how community works? Help each other upstairs. It begins as easy as that, isn't it? They're going to be handing you out some microphones. Amazing. Grab definitely some water. Sahar, you're raised well, eh? Right away. That's how it, without words, eh? Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Sahar, I already started with the tough question to you, to do some reflection for us. Can you reflect on what touched you?
Wow, yeah. I mean, we just heard music, so I'm still there. And I'm getting emotional. Yeah, I think that what touched me and what you also said about art and activism is that I work mostly also in the art and culture sector, making programs and trying to translate human rights to, as you said, ordinary people, whatever that may be. But yeah, the translation is so important. And the reason that I get emotional is because, I mean, we're in, what is this, I'm sorry for my French, fuckery we are in right now, right? And in the midst of chaos, in the face of a genocide, and everything that we're scrolling past, I mean, we're scrolling past cute kittens and then a child dying, we're scrolling past a relationship breaking up and then war images. And in the midst of all of this, art is so important. And in the midst of all of this, it's always moved me that people from our regions and images from there also, that they still sing and they still dance. And what you said, like, that is the tool to keep our humanity, because I don't want to deflect away from the fact that when we say, oh, this is so humane, unfortunately, the atrocities happening is human-made, man-made. But to keep the soft powers, as I said, in in our hearts is through art, through music, through art, through imagining, not losing our imagination. As I said, peace is very, very mundane. I want to go to my country and hold the soils in my hand. Peace is not something epic or iconic or big, it's very small. And it doesn't need to happen with foreign frameworks. What needs to happen with the help of others is I, as a migrant, want to stop screaming to see me as human. I am fucking human. I have my basic human rights. I don't need to be grateful that I got my basic human rights and that you got your basic human rights. I don't need foreign policymakers to go to my country and tell us there what we need to do. I need you here to scream for us and fight fascism for us. Don't let us be in the forefront anymore. So yeah, that's the messages I got from you guys. And as you said, Martin Luther King did so bravely, but I need more people who don't look like Martin Luther King or are not migrants to be in the forefront now. Yeah, that would be my reflection, I guess, from everything I heard.
Beautiful, and not only in front of you, next to you, behind you.
Yeah.
Next to each other. Definitely beautiful. Someone else who just wants to add so that it doesn't become a question and answer game we start to play, but just a beautiful conversation. So I'm just opening the floor. I love those the most.
Sure. Thank you for those remarks, actually. I think you summed it up well. I think the thing that I take away from a moment like this and stories and art and culture and courageous conversations is that all of the challenges that we face that have been named tonight really involve us changing our perspective and participating. And I think a lot about what that means, being from a country that doesn't have to participate in the same way as other countries. And I think that's a challenge that we face in the United States, where I am, is getting people off their phones. You know, I've been here a few days, and I was remarking to my colleague Julie, who's with me, we didn't see phones out at the cafes, anywhere. And I think we're disconnected right now and dehumanized by what we're seeing. And I think it requires participation to get to a place of peace. But there's a lot of work ahead, at least for the communities that I'm around. And I want to underline what you said, which is more people who look like me need to be on the front lines of that.
Kumi.
So I just pick up on the question of participation. So, as I mentioned, you know, I had a big personal tragedy where our son was one of South Africa's most popular musicians, very sensitive child, very concerned about humanity, very magnanimous in his success. And he is just one person in a growing number of young people around the world. I must say to young people in the audience here today, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry our generation let you down so badly. You will never find a biggest bunch of losers than my generation. We have run out of fresh ideas. We are constantly putting old ideas on the table, right? We are contaminated by bad experiences, and we constantly want to push those bad experiences on you. So I say to you, we are facing a global mental health crisis right now. And we need participation for two reasons. One, those in power are not going to shift until they can see serious numbers visibly mobilized around them. And to many young people here, I know that you are frustrated and you might be tempted into violence. But I want to say to you, be very, very careful that violence is unethical, unstrategic, and untactical. The Donald Trumps of the world are praying that you engage in violence, because what they will do is insert into peaceful protests what are called agents provocateurs, people who will make violence happen, so, for example, they can bring in troops and potentially exert the Insurrection Act and suspend the Constitution in the United States, for example. So I say to you, that's one reason, right? That if we don't mobilize and visibly show large numbers of people participating in a diversity of ways, we don't stand a chance. But there is a second reason. Right now, you know, I was in a march in New York of about 500,000 people several years ago on climate justice. And there was these two young girls from Philadelphia, right? And they were carrying a sign that said, "Sorry, mama, you're not gonna be a grandma," right? It completely broke my heart. And you know how many young girls I meet in the climate justice movement who say things to me like, "Kumi, I guess it's not responsible for us to have kids, right?" I mean, imagine that we've put this question before our children because we have failed to act when the science was clear for a long time. So we need participation also to help us. Participation is itself going to be an antidote to despair. Participation is what's going to give our young people and older people a sense of community, a network of support, and so on. So I just want to say, those in power who are pushing fascism are banking on us staying unengaged. They are banking on us being fearful. Show them that we don't accept that. Show them that we can rise above fear, and show the courage that this moment of history calls for. Thank you.
The long breath and the long term. Nene.
I want to take from your presentation and the action you took as somebody from the US. And it just reminds me the saying of the late UN Secretary General, Kofi Annan, when he said, "The world is a global village." Simply means things happening in one country are also happening in other countries. But one of the things I like, and I think that's what we are doing, but we need to do more, is the issue of mobilizing communities. Activists have been talking, lobbying, advocating, and as you say, nothing is changing, and it seems as if everybody is burning out. So mobilizing communities so that communities also be part of what we've been advocating for is what is needed.
And then how do we do that? How do we do that?
And again, you can do this by getting the young people involved. The young people will have to take leadership. They will have to learn. But most of them have been carried away by social media and what is said on social media that actually is not like the reality, but given bad influence. So we also have to make sure the young people use social media in a positive way, but in a way of also addressing, because we are in the digital world, and everybody, as we sit here, is watching what is happening. So if the young people can begin to use social media in a positive way by calling our leaders out, then they will understand that change is needed and that the whole world is calling for this. But talking, conferences, we've been doing this. Actions, more than before, is what we need now.
And stepping down and making space for them too, right? I mean, otherwise staying in those positions. Of course.
Yeah, I honor what you're saying, and I understand that you're saying that, but I do not fully agree, because I am in awe of what the young generation is doing right now, but also with social media. It has many sides, looking at who's leading the social media platforms, but I am also very, very much impressed, even as a legal professional in the international field, even though the tribunals are not having effect. I am so impressed by the young generation, how they have mobilized the Free Palestine movement through social media and how they have utilized these platforms to mobilize. I haven't seen in my life these many protests happening as it has happened over the past 3 years through the usage of social media. And I also think that the young generation is really sick of the systems that are in place that cannot be broken, so they are busy creating their own systems right now. And I think it's becoming devastating to them that this is the system they need to participate in order to have a seat at the table. They're like, no, we're going to break that table and we're going to make our own new table. And that's also what I'm seeing in the younger generation. So I do want to add that, because I also want to add some hope in here that even though it seems that impunity is in power and there's an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, I mean, what are we teaching the new generation about our legal systems right now? They really are using and utilizing these platforms also to mobilize. So I do want to give that credit to them.
So I just want to support that comment and say that one of the mistakes we've made historically is we've thought that the main threat to peace, democracy, justice, human rights is what you might call the repressive state apparatus, army, police, formal laws, and so on. And of course, the repressive state apparatus is really powerful because it constrains the terms of public participation and civic life. But actually, the biggest threat we face is not the repressive state apparatus. It is the ideological state apparatus, by which I mean the framework for education, the framework for religion, the funding of arts and culture, and most importantly, the framework for communications and media. I have been saying for decades now, having lived in the United States, and when I was in exile, I was a visiting scholar at Yale in my early 20s. When I looked at the media there, I was shocked. You know, let's do a quick experiment. How many of you have watched CNN International? Please raise your hand at some point. Please raise it. Keep it up. Okay, just watch the people whose hands are up. Those hands are not up. How many of you have watched CNN International? Keep your hands up. How many of you who've watched CNN International think that it's a left-wing or radical or ultra-liberal news media? Nobody. Oh, sorry, is there anybody? Nobody, okay? But look at what the people in the United States face, right? In the continuum of media in the United States, you've got Fox and Newsmax on the far right, and you've got CNN on the left. I mean, you can't really call it left, but within the US context, right? In the European context, you wouldn't call it left at all, right? But this version of CNN that citizens in the United States see is even a more conservative version of what we see. They see something called CNN or CNN headline news. So when you might be tempted to have an anti-American sentiment sometimes, which I pick up in Europe and around the world, I want to say to you, the average American citizen is also a victim, just as the average white South African was a victim, right? Because they have been sold a bunch of lies in a media environment that is completely constrained. So in this moment that we are in, communications, and it's ridiculous that Elon Musk, thank you for taking him from South Africa, by the way.
What a gift.
Please don't send him back.
You can have him back.
So think about it, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, two people who have sold their souls completely to fascism, right? The power they have on the communications environment is crazy, right? How did our regulation of media, corporate media, right, be as bad as it is right now? So we ignore at our own peril a communications environment that is stacked against us. We have to make the best use of the broken system of media we have, but we also have to push for greater media diversity and come up with alternative ways of reaching people. Otherwise, fascism is going to continue to rise as it is happening right now.
Jess.
Well said. Yeah, the media environment is a huge problem. I think you can see, since you brought him up, with Elon Musk and Doge and this current administration, what they have done across the United States with remarkable speed, which is to go after the education systems, to go after our work across the world in aid, which was, by the way, the very first thing they did was to shut that down, was to close us off, shut us down, and prevent us from being in conversation and support and community with other countries. That's by design. In fact, they've told us what they're doing with Project 2025, and we know what's coming next. But education, culture, media are huge challenges in the United States, primarily because of the corporate culture. I think we saw with the inauguration of Donald Trump that that was for sale. All you had to do was take one look at that day and who was behind him, which were media and tech moguls, essentially. And I think we are going to have to rise up. I do think, though, and I will say, that in my work, and I do work with some young people in other countries as well, what we have been learning and seeing and hearing is really this idea of digital detox, this idea of just putting it down and spending time away to be in conversation and to be in community. And it's remarkably healthy, and it's like anything, it gives us an opportunity to change our perspective. And I think the change of perspective is needed, particularly for Americans who have been fed lies from Fox News and conservative and right-wing kind of propaganda for 15 years straight, kind of no matter where you are. People think that you opt into that, but it exists in every element of American society. On at a hospital, on at a pub, in a store, it's taken over. And so it requires a tremendous amount of effort and a lack of apathy to overcome it. And we have to build that muscle to be able to do that.
And this is something that's all over the world, by the way. It's not only America. If I can just see the countries.
I was just going to respond that just in the Netherlands, the cabinet fell. Well, that's become a usual thing these days with the Netherlands, the cabinet falling again. But the fascist party was in power, and it's like literally copy-pasting Trump. And I really do not want to glorify or romanticize Europe being more on the left or even the Netherlands. And what really, really pissed me off is that when Trump won, all of a sudden, a lot of Dutch people, a lot of Dutch white people were like really shocked this time. I'm like, listen, 1.5 years ago, there was a Trump clone here who got the most votes in the Netherlands. Why are we more vocal about Trump every single time? We do not even know that our own house is really on fire when it comes to fascism. So even if young people here or people here in the Netherlands would be less on their phones than in America, I don't think that that's fully the problem. I think that fascism, as I said in my part, is really utilizing a tool way too successfully, and that's xenophobia and that's anti-migration. Why the hell is that so successful 20 plus years after 9/11? Here in Europe, here in the Netherlands, it's happening right here where we're sitting. It's not just America. And I think that we really need to collectively, as I said, in the forefront, there needs to be Dutch white people, there needs to be European white people with the decolonial mindset and making us understand that the whole culture of colonialism started here in Europe, started here in the Netherlands.
So guys, let's get practical. We have listened to your amazing stories. We got inspired. We feel it in every cell of our body. And it's something that we know that we can transform to others who come after us. What can we do today and from today upon with everything that you have shared with us? Give us practical tools how we can become the ripple effect of everything that we have experienced here today with one another.
I'm happy to go. So, first, refuse to accept that your voice doesn't matter. Second, refuse to accept that your participation cannot make a difference. Third, refuse to accept that you are the blame of the problem. So the fossil fuel companies, for example, sort of almost make it seem that it's your fault because you drive and you use energy and so on. We want to do all of those things, but we never said we wanted to get dirty energy, right? That was a choice they made and they fostered it upon us. And fourth, don't think you can do it on your own only. Build community around yourself and choose things that give you joy, right? Say if you're a school teacher and you're an arts teacher, right? Don't go sit in a meeting drafting a constitution for, making rules for a constitution for your local body. Go work in the community with young people, do murals that show positive messages for peace, justice, and hope. If you choose things that you enjoy doing, right? It could be, if you're a lawyer, focus on strategic litigation, right? If you are a plumber, go build homes for people who are homeless, right? Choose things that you have an inclination to do and things that give you joy, because we have to make activism joyful. And I want to remind everybody that activism is sexy. Really, we have to make it even more sexy than it is. Really, we must not make it, to be an activist, you have to go to prison and get beaten up. Now that is part of the package, right? And having witnessed and experienced that a fair amount of my life, I can say to you that we have to, because basically the far right has actually made involvement. One of the reasons a lot of people voted for Donald Trump in the first election, they just found him really, really entertaining, right? He was an entertainer, right? And so I'm not saying we have to behave like that, right? But we have to, because quite frankly, many of us who are in the human rights and gender justice field and all, we are really serious, earnest. They're quite boring. Okay, maybe I'm not speaking for everybody, I'm speaking for myself. Yeah, okay. Some people look at me, no, I'm not boring, right? So no, really, really, we have to make participation attractive, right? And so what you choose to do, only you can choose what's the right thing. And let me just conclude by making this point. All efforts at social change is contextual, right? So for example, I support very strongly peaceful civil disobedience, right? And I've got a track record of doing that, occupying oil rigs in the Arctic and all of that, right? But let me give you an example. Just because civil disobedience is part of the activist toolbox doesn't mean the same kind of civil disobedience can be used in every context. So let me give you an example, right? There's a civil disobedience thing called mooning. Do people know what's mooning? Mm-hmm. So mooning is like, say, 4 of us, before we came to the meeting, we wrote one letter on our bum cheek and then we pulled out our pants and it said, stop climate change, right? Now that might work in San Francisco, New York, or London. It's not going to work so well in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, or Indonesia, right? It doesn't mean that it's wrong, right? It just means we have to be thoughtful about how we do it. So I support Extinction Rebellion, but I was publicly critical of Extinction Rebellion when they blocked tube stations, underground train stations in London, which working class, mainly people of color, use, for example, right? So we have to be thoughtful of what tool we deploy in what context. And if we do that, and we make sure that we are doing it with love and affection and showing optimism to people, I think that's how we ourselves can participate, and we can get others to participate with us.
Thank you, 𝗃𝗀𝘀.
I never thought I'd get a chance to use the word bum cheek in a panel. It's the first time I've done so. I'm very pleased with myself.
You're welcome. You are welcome. That's why I love just opening it and then not asking too many questions. That body archive, it's still getting deeper and deeper understanding of what you mean. You feel also like an archive. All of you feel like an archive listening to you guys. Your mind goes all over. Jess, what do you want to share? What can we do tomorrow, today, and from now on?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it so well. I really think we have to show up. We have to show up for our neighbors, for our communities. The thing that gives me hope isn't political parties or politicians, it's people. And we're seeing that every single day in the United States, particularly around family separation and deportations. What we're seeing in states, even where they don't have political power, is people blocking vans, protecting families, and making change. And making change in legislation too, even though they have no state or federal political power. It is possible when people come together, and you have to show up. And I think this is important to say as well, because we are working in this sort of security space right now. Safety is personal. It's different for everybody. Everybody's lived experiences, cultural experiences, professional experiences. I haven't been to jail, but more people like me should be for our beliefs. And we're in a different moment in time that requires different things. And so people have to evaluate for themselves what that looks like. But everybody can show up in some way, some of the ways that I talked about. You don't have to do it publicly. You can donate quietly, you can sign an email, you can bear witness to something so that people are being seen, the people that are doing things. You can do all different kinds of things to build muscle memory to get to that place. But I will say this, people have to see other people putting themselves on the line and making change. If they do, courage is contagious.
Can I say one thing? I just want to support Jess on this issue. I really don't want to communicate that like all of us have to engage in civil disobedience. My sister, who died at the age of 56 from brain cancer, was somebody who nobody would have described as an activist. But whether it was stealing her husband's car and leaving it on the windowsill so we can go pick it up when we were 16 years old and go spray Free Mandela graffiti, that was activism. She was behind the scenes helping. So if you're a single mom with 3 kids, for example, society shouldn't expect you to go and get arrested and be in prison and so on. So we have to also accept people in terms, and we shouldn't be judgmental, right? People should be able to contribute what they can contribute. And that's why I say all of us can be involved in different ways. So thank you for making that.
Nene. We have dictators because we are all standbys out of fear. So the first thing we need to do is to see how we overcome fear in us. And then let's mobilize, build team, train in active nonviolence. When you train in active nonviolence, and as they say, you take in protests, peaceful protests, you show to leaders, to dictators, to a broken system that this is wrong. But we have to do that by teams. I have an example of saying women were never allowed to vote in the US. But there was just one woman who stood up one day and knocked the door of another woman to say, you know what, we need to go out, we need to vote, we need to do this. And they went to the other door. That was how women mobilized themselves. Now, they are not only voting, but they are voted for. And in my country, it's also a big example that we have. People fear to talk about tradition. People fear if you say this, you will not win an election. That was the time I stepped up in 2007. And I said, you know what, I have to take the risk. We cannot continue to be like this. People are dying silently. Women and girls are suffering. And I killed fear in me. I took up the sacrifice and the challenge. The first thing I did was to convince my family to say, you need to support me in doing this. And again, we lost a family. We cannot continue to be quiet. So one of the things is we should not be bystander. We all should participate, and participate public and positively to make sure we fight against broken systems.
Before you answer, I'm here because and my people were killed by their neighbors and by their surroundings. So the things that you're saying, they're very important, and I support you guys. But how do we do that, and how do we work with one another when you are made to be opposite, in which you're basically not? But how do we work with that? Sorry for making it more complex.
Every time when I have to.
Sorry, yeah.
More complex.
I know
I thought
you
you were our
a bit longer, so I know that you can handle this, baby.
I'm just gonna do a little detour and come back to your question, yeah? I wanna ask the audience a question. I find it always like, it's an out-of-body experience to be like an Afghan Dutch woman and on stage and in front of an audience that's often white and Dutch. And then, yeah, I do think activism is very sexy when you standing on a stage as an Afghan woman talking about women's rights. So I wanted to ask, who here has voting rights in the Netherlands? Vast majority in the room, I think. Can you make it more up? Like
higher.
I think this is the vast majority in the room. Yeah. Yeah, so the reason I'm bringing up being Afghan again and again is also an out-of-body experience is that I'm from a country that the first time in history, they invaded a country that had nothing to do with being perpetrators of 9/11. It was the first time that a state got the right to self-defense to go in a country where the perpetrator was hiding an uninvited guest. And my country is shattered. And I think it is what is a tool? Bare minimum. Vote anti-militarism, please, so that countries like mine are not shattered as it is today. 20 plus years, one of the longest missions in history, and look what has happened to my country. Your party, Deputy Mayor, I respect you, I'm really glad you're here today, but please talk to them also about this. 5% of our wealth is gonna go to NATO, is gonna go, what is this gonna do? I think we radically, really radically need to be into abolitionism? How do you say it? Abolitionism. Thank you for bringing up jails and prisons. Angela Davis, for example, in America, stated this. She becomes sexy and writes books in activism after she was imprisoned, after she had to suffer. Why am I advocating that my brown body or Angela Davis's black body shouldn't be in the forefront? It does become sexy because I won an award, Peace Prize, 2 years ago for advocating the way I do. But in that same year, when I went on a stage for Climate March, I was at the biggest climate march in the Netherlands, and I gave the mic to a Palestinian. Our mics were turned off. Then suddenly it became unsexy. I wasn't allowed to use the word genocide. A man attacked us on stage. On tweets, people tweeted to me, go and be raped by Hamas. I mean, I am used to being sent back to my own country in tweets, but this was a violence I hadn't faced before. So we need you in the forefront so I can retire as an activist with my brown body, with being an Afghan woman. Please use your voting rights for that, and do use your bodies for that, because if people see themselves in you, like the biggest demonstration in history after the 80s when the Rode Lijn was filled with Dutch people, that, we need more of that. Thank you. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, not yet, but Kumi can.
Yeah, no, I can't, but it's what's happening, you know, is that people who have lived as neighbors for centuries in some cases, right, in the US, in other parts of the world, are being consciously divided, right? Because, I mean, it's so ridiculous that a person who has a track record of disrespecting the working class, not only in the US is the most clear example, is able to mobilize the working class to vote for him, right? And it does say, I'm sorry to say also, Jess, it does say a very bad message for the Democratic Party, okay? Yeah, and you know, and so what I'm saying is that in this moment that we are in, this question that you raise, what we've seen so far, if we don't get smart and if we don't find a way of building peace in communities like the work Nene is doing, for example, we are going to see more and more of it. And just a reflection on the US, which I want to offer, because I think I agree with you. It's, yeah, in Europe, in big time. You know, when I was Secretary General of Amnesty International, I would go to various countries for work, and every second or third country I went to, Steve Bannon either was there just before me or just was coming just after me. So you need to understand that the right-wing movement in the US, which is very well resourced, is causing shit here and all over the world, right? But important reflection from Julius Nyerere, if I can bring an African hero to it. Some of you will remember Nyerere. He was the founding president of Tanzania, and he died with no corruption and in simplicity in his village. He was asked by an American journalist once, why do you all have so many one-party states in Africa? And Nyerere started by saying, well, listen, we were fighting the colonial powers, we had to unite everybody under one force, but I'm sure over time, political parties will emerge and all of that. And then Nyerere turned to him and said, however, when I look at Europe, Europe is far from perfect. They were the ones who gave us colonialism, slavery, and all of that. But at least in Europe, you'll have at least one country in each, one party in each country, one party that is for capital, for business and business interests, the conservatives, and you'll usually have at least one party in the interests of the working class. When I look at the United States, both your parties are completely in the interests of the working class, and in my mind, he said, even the US is a one-party state, but in typical American extravagance, you've got two of them, right? So when I look at the US today, right, one thing that Donald Trump has done that has been helpful, he has actually created a distance between the two parties, right? But if I'm brutally blunt, as a young person fighting against, for democracy in South Africa, we never looked at the US as inspiration, because all that has happened in the US, in my judgment, is we've moved from a liberal oligarchy to an ultra-illiberal oligarchy. And unless the Democratic Party begins to genuinely serve the interests of the working people, they will not come back into power in the way they need to and what the world needs them to do. We need the Democratic Party to bring sanity, but I have to say there are far too many old people in leadership in the United States. They need to make space for younger people to come in, and they must stand up and genuinely fight for working people. Thank you.
You have an answer?
Yeah, very short. I can
Please.
answer your question maybe to give an example of how the Taliban exists and is in power now is also because of weapons that were distributed in Pakistan to so-called freedom movements. Where did those weapons come from? I mean, yes, it is also an issue between the Afghans themselves. As you said, our own neighbors wanted to kill us. But then again, where is it fueled from? It always comes from somewhere. And that's why I am so anti-weaponization. Our scorched earth, ecocide and genocide goes hand in hand. The climate crisis, if we are creating mass destruction that can destroy our land where once olive trees are, what are we doing? I think we need to look at the root of where the weaponization comes from when you are becoming your neighbor's enemy. I think that is also very important to look at.
Definitely. I loved really what you have shared. Did you love what they have shared to share too? It's a great honor to share a light that we get when you have an opportunity to be on a stage like this. During the Second World War, when Hitler's people called the Moroccan king and asked, "Do you have some Jews for me?" The Moroccan king said, "I only have my own Moroccan people. I don't know what you mean." Tito, who has and is seen in the Western countries as a dictator, what that man wisely did in the Balkans, in those 7 countries that we know now, who were one country, Yugoslavia, was shifting up to brother and sisterhood, making things what you want to be and live and feel, something that you do in your private life, in your communities. But supporting the brother and sisterhood is making us all human and equal again on all parties. If I can answer my own question, it's not common for the moderator, sorry, but I really believe that it starts when we see each other as a human. And if you live in the Netherlands, we're all Dutch. And if you live in America, we're all American. If you live in South Africa, we're all South African. Sierra Leone. But also, we are all equally on this earth and have the ability to become and be whoever we want, and not what others make us. So really be like the king of Morocco then, and just say, I'm another human being, and I see you as another human being, and you have the same rights as I do. Because that's the easiest way, and then all of that other shit we don't have to do anymore. Sorry for my language. We are getting way out of time, but we started 10 minutes late, so. Never again is now, people. Never again is now. Please give them a warm applause. Kumi, Jess, Nene, and Shahar.
And thank you for being here. Applause for yourselves. Thank you for being.
We are not finished yet. We are not finished yet. We're gonna have a beautiful ending with you, Nicella. I promised you a beautiful ending, so no worries. Yeah. They're going to be transforming the stage again. I will just do a little flip, finish off now, and then leave the stage to you so that nothing else is needed to be done. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and all of you all over the world who are watching us. It's important that we collect and be together, because the feeling that you have when you are joined with one another, that's so, so important, because we need each other to survive this day and age where we are in now. Thank you to Amare, and of course thank you to the Just Peace Festival for organizing this Hague Talks, and the Hague Humanity Hub, the Leiden University, the municipality of The Hague, our media partner, Holland Park Media, interpretation partner, Interprofree, and thank you to amazing people who have done a lot of work that we don't see. Maria is over there. She doesn't like to be in the spot. Alexandre, where are you, Alexandre? I don't know where you are. You're pretty tall. Yeah, you can set up. It's over there. Alexandre. And she just left the stage. Barkley, where are you? All the volunteers, would you please stand up? All the volunteers, would you please stand up? Thank you so, so much for everything that you have done. We're here until the 22nd, so please join and see on the website all the rest of the program. But there is also an open letter on the website. And this open letter is an important thing that we need to sign with one another. Stand for just peace. As global leaders gather in The Hague for the 2025 NATO Summit, we call for a balanced vision of peace and security, one that places people at its heart. At a time when the focus is increasingly drawn towards defense capabilities and military preparedness, sorry guys, thank you so much. We urge equal and sustained attention to and investment in the long-term work of building resilience, inclusive and just societies. This is not an alternative to security, it is the foundation of it. This is the beginning of what is read on the website and on the letter. Please put your autograph on there, leave your remarks, include all your friends. Like Nene said, take some other human being and go together. Go online and sign, because we need to raise our voices and not be silenced in any ways. I am an ambassador of peace. Life made me one of those. Please join in. Let us be the activists of human rights and peace together. That's the only way. And now I would love to welcome her back to the stage. After her words, beautiful performance, we have the ability to get to know each other more during the drinks, of course. So don't leave us. You all are staying, right? Yeah? No? No drinks? Oh, sorry, Barkley. No drinks. But we can get acquainted here. Please give her a warm applause. 𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃.
Thank you. Before I begin, I just want to do a very quick shout out to trans people. I was gone to the restroom for 5 minutes, so maybe it was mentioned, but I don't know if it was. So shout out to my trans friends and even my trans enemies if needed, the people outside or in between the gender binary, because I want to recognize that, your security is being compromised each day of your life as well. In a way, a war is also being waged on you, and I'm really grateful that you exist, and we shouldn't take that for granted. So I don't know if we talked about that type of security yet, so I just... Thank you. So this closing piece is called You Are Needed. You are needed. On bitter days, the sky an endless grey, in rain, in wind, in hailstorm, in snowfall, in sunshine, during daylight, nightfall, dawn, and when dusk comes for a visit. You are needed. Your gentle voice, your uncompromising gaze. Bring your fears, your doubts, bring all your failures, your insecurities, your worries. You are needed. I want to learn from you to comprehend myself. Bring a flashlight for my blind spots, cocoa balm for what I question. Please arrive with your palms open and feet rooted in the sand. Show me how to clench my fist or how to tenderly caress. Immerse me in our past, recount the stories that we share. Let us together search with care for what was forcefully erased. Talk to me about the issues that threaten our coexistence. I want to find the cracks and figure out how we can fix them. I need you, Nene, who takes the blade, no hesitation, cuts the cycle. With her fierce presence and community focus, she strives for dignity. Sahar, who will sit next to you, offer a cup of tea. She provides a space of comfort, asking you, what do you need? Jess, who spent decades fighting for the people's justice by making space instead of overriding other people's voices. Kumi, who plants seeds of change with unwavering courage, mixing art and activism so that everyone can flourish. Ruby moves with deep significance, fueling our fighting spirit. Shaza has a deeply haunting voice, touching everyone who hears it. Leila, who brings a presence so reassuring you can't help but feel seen. My partner Nanoa, who is so loving it makes me cry. Faris Gargard, who speaks courageous words with flower in her eyes. And of course Barkley and the Just Peace team. I'm grateful for your belief in a peaceful and a more just society. I need you to. You. Give me your stories. Boring, cheesy, over the top. I want your anti-capitalist 𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗃 code, your brazen declarations of love. You are needed. Your courage, dreams, your passion, your ideas, to concoct a way of being in which each of us can flourish, where difference isn't feared but cherished. An arsenal of voices makes the richest melody.